Kennedy, who is just asking questions, has implied that man-made chemicals is what's making everyone so damn gay nowadays. RFK Jr., successor of a political dynasty and JFK's nephew, is going to be running as an independent in the 2024 presidential election. Kennedy describes his campaign as a bid to rid the government of corruption and remove the stranglehold of giant corporations on Washington. I'm going to be frank with you. Some of what Kennedy is saying is incredibly appealing to me. He wants to cut military spending, give the EPA back its teeth so it can enforce legislation. He wants to raise the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. All of this I can 100% get behind. But beneath this veneer of left-leaning populism, there is some very dangerous rhetoric that we need to discuss. Kennedy is firmly anti-vaccine. He might say that that is not true, but let's look at what he himself has said in the past. In a Fox News interview, Kennedy said, "I do believe that autism does come from vaccines." I'm sorry, I need to interject here. Vaccines do not cause autism. Point blank. There is not a reputable doctor alive who will tell you that they do. Sorry, back to you, Bobby. We should have the same kind of testing, placebo-controlled trials that we have for every other kind of medication. Vaccines are exempt from pre-licensing placebo-controlled trials. Okay, but that's just not true. Vaccines are absolutely tested for placebo effect, efficacy, and just general safety before they ever reach the mass market. What he's somewhat alluding to, and this is really sneaky of him because he knows what he's doing, is that updated vaccines do not have to go through those testing phases again because they are so similar to the vaccines they're replacing that already went through that rigorous testing. Also, to do placebo testing on an updated vaccine is wildly unethical because you already have a working vaccine, but you would have to give a control group a placebo, possibly exposing them to the disease that you could vaccinate them from. Kennedy's anti-vaccine rhetoric goes far beyond possible misconceptions, though. In 2018, Kennedy's anti-vaccine advocacy group, Children's Health Defense, because of course that's what it's called, was directly linked to an outbreak of measles in Samoa. After a very unfortunate incident where 2 children were killed after vaccines were administered improperly, anti-vaccine groups started spreading false information to the area, and vaccine rates fell 31%, well below the immunity level needed to stop infection. A study showed that 54% of the misinformation that was reaching the people of Samoa about vaccines was coming through social media and from 2 groups in particular. One of those was Kennedy's organization. That same organization did targeted ads propagating false information about how the children died and stating that the vaccines themselves were the cause, not administer error. Kennedy has adopted the oh-so-popular fear of man-made chemicals that runs rampant in the New Age community, and he has applied that fear toward childhood, sexuality, and gender. On his own podcast, Kennedy, who is just asking questions, has implied that man-made chemicals is what's making everyone so damn gay nowadays. I want to pursue just one question on these. You know, the other endocrine disruptors, because our children now, we're seeing these impacts that people suspect are very different than in past ages about sexual identification among children and sexual confusion, gender confusion. These kinds of issues are very controversial today. It's controversial because it's not true. There have always been gay kids. Ask my parents. There have always been trans kids. We have grown as a society where these kids are less likely to experience physical violence for just expressing who they are. They're less afraid to show their identities, so they're showing their identities more, so we as a society are seeing them more. It is not that hard to understand. But Kennedy goes on to argue that man-made pesticides made frogs change genders. So that's why everyone's trans. The CDC has pointed out that the specific chemical that he is referencing does not have the same effect in humans, and humans are not exposed to it all that often anyway. Kennedy is quick to write off any data from the CDC as an appeal to authority, a logical fallacy. That's just anti-science, Bobby. If a scientist produces a peer-reviewed paper and you do not agree with it because it goes against what you believe, that's confirmation bias. That is a logical fallacy. These people love to talk about how facts don't care about your feelings, how science is cold and hard and doesn't give a shit who you are. But the second anything disagrees with them, they write it off. They write it off like it just doesn't exist. But we're the snowflakes, apparently. It goes deeper. Of course it goes deeper. Kennedy has linked mass shootings to antidepressants. In June of this year, Kennedy is on record saying, with all these shootings, no one is looking at the pharmaceutical contribution to that. It appears that almost every one of these shooters were on SSRIs or some other psychiatric drug. Kids always had access to guns, and there was no time in American history or human history where kids were going to school and shooting their classmates. It really started happening with the introduction of these drugs, with Prozac and other drugs. As someone who has been on SSRIs to deal with both anxiety and depression, you, Bobby. If someone makes the extremely difficult choice to alter their brain chemistry because they think that might better their life, that is a decision that is between them and their doctor and none of your damn business. There is already so much stigma and presumed weakness surrounding mental health medication that we do not need an ignorant bigot like yourself throwing fuel onto that fire. Kennedy is absolutely dangerous. He speaks with confidence. He has this air that makes people want to trust him. And he skirts the line of ever saying anything that he could be pinned down on by hiding behind just asking questions. He's not asking questions. He is blowing dog whistles. His questions are just a way to hide if anyone ever calls him on it. Kennedy's seemingly left politics make him approachable. His bona fides as an environmental lawyer make him seem somewhat radical, and his name makes him seem relevant. He is none of those things. He is anti-vax, he is anti-science, he believes the US dollar should be backed by a cryptocurrency for some reason that I cannot understand. He supports baseless conspiracy theories and makes genuine concerns about corruption in government seem like a joke. I am begging you, if you are thinking of voting for RFK Jr., please reconsider. Thank you for watching. Please like this video, please subscribe, and if you like this content, check out the video I did on the Bob Menendez scandal. It is really great and filled with a lot of crazy shit. So, I will see you when the news gets good.